The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are not those of New Zambia or its employees, but of the presenter and the respective guests. The New Zambia podcast is powered and proudly brought to you by New Zambia Media.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the New Zambia podcast with your host Wezi, Nyalazi and Mutepa, Puta. In today's episode we are having someone very special, someone who's an author, and she is a lawyer by profession with a Bachelor of Laws and a master's degree in corporate and commercial law to her name. She is also a singer and a songwriter with an EP titled First Love, which was recorded in 2019. And it is available on Deezer and Spotify, among many other music platforms. She serves as a member of the worship team at Zoe Embassy International under her mentors, Prophet James and Esther Elisha. She is a writer, radio personality, and an actress. Ladies and gentlemen, please help us welcome Sarah Nampemba to the podcast.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Sarah.
Good afternoon.
We are glad to have you here, and it's an honor to have you on this platform.
The feeling is mutual.
Thank you so much.
Yes, now, Sarah, let's start from the book. Just if you can just tell us, I know we can go through the synopsis of what it's about, but we want to hear from you as the author what the book is about. If you can just tell us in your own words what the book is about.
The book is about me and my techniques, or what has worked for me, and help me navigate my world of my world in Christian dating. It answers questions that I had, and it helps people to answer questions that they have but don't have anyone to answer them for them.
Yeah, I mean, navigating the world of Christian dating is quite challenging, especially for young people in today's world where we are flooded with images and media and social media telling us what they think is supposed to be right and what might not be right in our traditions and in our culture and in line with our spirituality as well. So maybe if we can just rewind a bit and we talk about when you finished your secondary education, just tell us a little bit about your educational background, and we'll pick it up from there maybe.
I did my primary school at People's Christian School in Itawa from 2009 to 2010. Sat for my grade 7 exams. Then 2010 going forward, I did my junior secondary at Chilengwa Basic School right here in Ndola. Then I went to high school. I did my high school at Mpongwe South Technical School, where I graduated in 2015. I was about 16 years old.
Wow. So, this is really good. And in these years, you've obtained your Bachelor of Laws and your Master.
Yes.
This is really good.
Thank you.
It's very impressive. Very impressive.
Actually, I skipped 2 grades because I could always just grasp concepts easily. And so every grade I went to, I was always told, you know what, let her just try. Let her just try these exams. And then trying, I actually succeed. Let her try these, and then the next thing you know, I'm actually done with school and I'm a baby. And I still am a baby, actually.
How did you find that, skipping grades? Because I skipped grades as well. I skipped 2 grades from after my grade 7. I skipped 2 grades, and initially it was okay, but developmentally I found it very challenging. I found it very challenging because all my classmates were at least 2-3 years older than me, and I felt there was a gap in growing up, but also I felt like I was rushed to become an adult quickly.
Yes.
So how did you find it? The same?
I can relate.
You can relate, yeah?
And it resonates with me very much because I've always, even in my undergraduate, I was the youngest in my class. Even in my master's, I am the youngest in my class. So I just had to learn to live with it. But at first it was hard, especially when I just went into a new grade and I was still the youngest. And I was bullied, actually. I went through bullying when I was young. And it really took a toll on me because I was afraid now to shine and be in my element of this intelligent young girl, because every time you shine, you provoke something in people. It's like they just get so intimidated by you, and then you just provoke people to just hate you because they feel like you are a competition instead of an encouragement to do better. So unfortunately, as good as it was to accomplish certain things at an early age, it had its negative effects, which was bullying.
I think let's take this point and use you to encourage maybe a young girl out there who is afraid to shine. And I think it's very important that we give this kind of encouragement to the young ones out there. I mean, girl child education is very important to me, being a father of 2 girls myself.
Wow.
So I think that maybe saying something out there that will help encourage someone else. Yeah, so talking about bullying and having challenges in putting yourself out there, I think we can take and use this opportunity to encourage other girls, young girls who fear or shun away from the spotlight in trying to excel in whatever it is they do by fear of probably some kind of retribution or whatever from bullies. And you know that it doesn't just happen in school. It even happens in the corporate world.
Very much.
It happens in the corporate world where women fear to excel or put themselves forward for fear of being chastised or something like that. So I think maybe if you can just say a couple of words to a young girl or a young woman out there and just help them navigate through this.
Our number one purpose in life is to live according to our gifts and bring value to this world. Without that, you're just existing, you're not living.
Yeah.
And what will it profit you to die and never have lived because of what people think of you, or being afraid of what is going to come after you shine your shine? So you just have to accept that no matter what you do, everybody has a preference. You could be an apple, the best version of being an apple, and somebody is not going to prefer an apple. They'll prefer something else to an apple, and that's okay. So you really need to just accept that not everybody is going to like you.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
You cannot bend to suit the needs of others because you will never be happy.
Yeah.
So just do you and be you, and there will always be people out there that will appreciate you for who you are. So don't bend for others, be you.
Interesting. So now let's go to your book. The title of your book, first and foremost, Sexually Armed. What inspired you to, come up with such a book?
Believe you me, everything I'm doing now, I've had this idea years and years ago. I had this idea in 2016. But because of my age and I didn't know how to materialize it, it really prolonged this book coming forth. So in the process of growing so enough to be able to write this book, the title came after I had settled with myself concerning certain issues in my life. Especially, which we're going to talk about later on, when I confronted my dad over certain things. That's when the title came, because I lost myself in the process of growing up. And the word armed means armor. And the word armor means attire. It means equipment. But in the literal sense, it could also mean knowledge. You could be equipped with knowledge. So this book is basically knowledge that you need about sex to navigate the world of Christian dating. But if I bring a title like how to navigate, like no sex before oh my God, nobody's gonna read it. Nobody, you just gave away
the whole thing.
Because I mean, this is something that we've been hearing and learning from, you know, from as little as, you know, and then people have always been telling, no sex before marriage, you know, this and that. But yeah, this is definitely a unique title. So now, for those that haven't yet had a chance to go through the book, let me just read through. Let me just give you a brief of what the book is all about.
Definitely.
So we go to school, attend college for years, and we learn new skills every day. We also may happen to go to church on a regular basis, but nobody teaches us how to navigate the world of Christian dating. So this book focuses in on how to prepare yourself for a Christian-centered relationship or marriage. This book was written by a fellow Christian youth who shares with others who may have not been courageous enough to seek help with dating for fear of being shunned or ridiculed. Times are changing, and who, if not a youth like you, to help you because they understand you at your level. The Bible is the main source of inspiration from which this book was written. Okay, so now I'm mostly interested on why you said nobody teaches us how to navigate the world of Christian dating. So how different is your book? Because we have obviously encountered a number of books in this line, of course, different titles, different perspective, and all. So how different is your book?
Well, like spoiler alert, I already mentioned it. Who if not a youth like yourself? So my audience is definitely the youth. But even older folks can read the book. It's okay. Yeah. But I'm telling the youths how I'm managing. I'm not, you know, our older folks can encourage us not to have sex before marriage. That's okay. That's right. But in this day and age, our generation and theirs was different because the digital age is tricky. Yes. Sometimes even when you're not even looking for pornography,
it comes.
It just pops up on your computer. And we didn't have such things in our parents' time. So now, in my time, I'm a youth. I've survived. I'm thriving. How am I doing it? Let's do it together. So I'm practically the living current example of what we should do to survive. If I'm surviving, then you can survive because I'm in your shoes going through exactly what you're going through.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. And I like the point that you raise because it's very easy for older folk to tell the young ones, do this, don't do that. And it's usually garnished with a little bit of lies about the good old days. When I was young, this never used to happen. When I was young, this never used to happen. And so you find that the youth are not really receptive to that kind of information. And I think a book like this, told from the point of, because if an older person is telling a younger person, don't do this, the young person will say, yeah, I know it's not right, but you don't understand the peer pressure that I'm going through right now. You don't understand. But being told about it from a young person's perspective, because when you talk about it, a young girl reading this book would be like, she gets me. This is what I'm going through. And I think that is such a advantageous point to come from in your storytelling. Yeah, so tell us about some insights that you found without giving too much away, because we still want people to buy your book. So without giving too much away, maybe a couple of insights that really speak to you from the book and something that you would want to share to, like we were talking earlier, to maybe someone who might not have the opportunity to read the book but will probably come across this podcast, and we still want them to pick up the information. I don't know, maybe if you can pick up a little bit of something from the book. And
okay, there's a chapter called Daddy Issues, which is chapter 2, and then the subheading Daddy Issues, which is page number 48. This chapter is basically the heart of this book. And I'm the only daughter to my mom and dad, and I'm the last born. So I grew up in a family with boys, and I had so many questions about womanhood that I couldn't ask my mother. Because my parents divorced when I was a year old.
Wow.
Daddy left home. And there's certain things I would have loved to hear from dad before I could hear them from somewhere else. Words like I love you, words of affirmation. Words like you deserve the good things, you are enough just the way you are. And hearing it from other people is not bad, but if it's done from a place of taking advantage of someone, it becomes an issue. And then me, who didn't know how to decipher whether it's coming from a place of genuineness or not, the moment I heard those words from other people, I took it as the real deal. And it had so many implications on my life, because as broken as I was without growing up with dad, that one person that became your everything crushed you again. And now you had to pick yourself up, and you're young. I saw my mom through 3 marriages.
Wow.
And I'm still learning to have I'm not perfect, I'm still a work in progress, and I'm still learning to appreciate marriage. But so far I've had the worst examples of what marriage is. I've seen my mom take up the masculine roles in her marriage. And what I mean by masculine roles is she took up the roles of provision in the home. And I never knew how to be feminine. And by feminine, I don't mean dressing like a lady, but I mean appreciating how to accepting compliments. Like, I never, like if someone tells you, you're beautiful, just something simple like that could just show that I have issues. Like, I don't believe it, because I was the one that was always dishing out. I was the giver, like that's all. I don't even know what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, no, we get it. Yeah.
So I saw my mom wear the pants in the home, because she was also so accustomed to being the man because daddy left. So she became our dad and our mom, and it was too much for her to also, like find time to emotionally support me. She financially supported me, but she was not emotionally present because she also needed help. You have 3 kids on your own, trying to, like, your first marriage fails, your second marriage fails, like it was too much for her. And I appreciate all that she did for me, but I didn't have a complete childhood. Things were missing. So Daddy Issues talks about the 3 categories of absent fathers. The physically present, but emotionally distant, and financially distant fathers. Or fathers that are not there to provide financial needs. And then these type of fathers cause children to outsource what is missing. So your dad can always be home, but he's not emotionally there. And then the other side of Daddy Issues is the emotionally present. So, like, basically all angles of, the availability of the father. And why I dwell so much on the father instead of the mother is because God ordained men to be the priest of the home, to be the leader, to create the vision for the family.
That's true.
And no matter how much a woman can try to be in the elements of the father just to raise a child, she would never do it to the capacity of a man, because she was not created in that element.
Yeah. No, I
that's
get
as
your
far
point.
as she could go.
Yeah, I get your point, and another takeaway from what you've just been saying is that I believe that we are a combination of all of our experiences, whether good or bad. I think our experiences play a great role in who we are. I believe, and just listening to you and how passionate you are about this subject, I believe that if you had a cushy life, you wouldn't drive as hard as you do to achieve what you do.
Yes.
And I think God uses us in certain ways, and I believe that God will never put anything on your plate that He knows you can't handle. I believe that God pushes us into opportunity in order for us to shine. And like you were saying, throughout your education, you have always been shining, because that is how God wanted to use you as a light. So that is so very important. And another thing about daddy issues is, you're so right when you talk about young ladies with absent fathers going out there to look for alternatives, and you find them hanging around with elder men and looking for relationships with elder men, and sometimes they don't even realize they're doing this, but they're looking for a substitute of what they never had and what they never got from home. So I think that both having a very strong mother and having a father who's present is very important balance when a child is coming up. But not to say that if you don't have both of these stability in your life, that it won't, like you're doomed from the beginning. You're not doomed, you're just starting from a different point than everyone else.
And then I don't talk about biological fathers only. We also have father figures.
Yes.
So in the book, I talked about people that God sends into our lives to fill that void. God sends mentors. He sends father figures in form of pastors, in form of whoever you look up to, that you feel in that particular area, they've gone ahead of you and they can help you navigate that aspect. And also in Africa, we haven't yet fully embraced co-parenting because there are just circumstances when you've seen that it's best that your parents are not together because it's toxic. Even as children, you say, okay, mom and dad together are toxic. But what they don't know is how to provide for all kinds of needs, whether emotional needs, physical needs for their children, while being in, separate homes. You can still attend your kids' graduation together. You can still do co-parent, but in Africa we haven't fully. But this is when we are, maybe embracing it, but we haven't gotten to that stage yet.
I think there's certain tradition is very important, but I think as we grow, tradition should be organic. It should be fluid. As we grow, we should be able to evolve and leave certain things behind and pick up certain things from other cultures. I mean, we're now in a global village, we're a multicultural society. So there's certain things that the West can learn from us, and there's certain things that we can learn from the West. And we don't have to take up everything. We can pick up certain things. One thing that has dropped off, and I remember when I was doing my school in England, this is one thing that when we were growing up, we never grew up in our nuclear family, if you know what I mean. There was always a cousin around, there was always an uncle who was going through stuff, and they came and stayed with us for a year and things like that. And my friends at school could just not believe that you've never just lived the way you are. But today you have people who are very comfortable in it's the husband, the wife, and the two kids. They don't really visit anyone. No one really comes to visit them, and that's how they live. And so things happen and things evolve. And not to say that there's anything wrong with the people that just wants to stick to themselves. I mean, they've evolved into that place because of maybe certain things that have happened, and some families can be toxic. Some families can be toxic, and so people evolve into these separate places. And so, like you're saying, I think it's very important that we we accept change, but not all change, you know. So I think it's
sometimes we can extend help from a distance. We don't necessarily need to, I am of the view that I would love to live with my nuclear family, because sometimes in Africa, extended families just create unnecessary drama in the homes. You know, no, you're not treating me like your actual children. Oh, this, that. You know, so sometimes it's okay to help people from a distance. You know, extend, love them, but sometimes it doesn't always have to be them living in your homes.
Yeah, and going back, I think let me take the conversation a little bit, a few steps back. We're talking about mentorship. Basically, mentorship can come from anywhere. You can be mentored. You don't have to have a mentor. You don't have to have a mentor with you present at the time. You can be mentored by someone
Who
wrote books, and you know, someone who presents on TV.
Or YouTube.
And things, on YouTube, exactly. But like with everything else in life, you have to. It's like a computer. Trash in, trash out. You have to filter what you bring into your life. So mentorship, I think, is very important. And through this book, that's exactly what you're doing.
Yes.
Telling a young girl and helping a young girl guide through the jungle of what is Christian dating, because there's so much out there. I mean, and there's so many questions to ask. What are you going to say? Or if a guy approaches me, if a guy likes me, do I say yes? Do I leave it? How do I know it's the right guy? You know, and those are all questions that children need, or young ladies need to have answered. And
definitely,
yeah, and unfortunately, in our African culture and even in our education system, you know, a lot of these questions aren't answered. It's important to try and leave room for the education system to do their part, but it's also important that we do our part as parents and ensure, because if the children don't get the knowledge from you, they'll get it from somewhere else.
Very true.
And you need to ensure that they're getting the right knowledge and the right values. And also children learn from what they see. And that is, you are most likely to teach your children by your deeds rather than by telling them what to do. Yeah, so is there any other aspect of the book that you'd like us to touch on? I'm thinking, something that caught my eye, which image awareness and reflection in chapter 1. I think this is an important topic, that especially for ladies, to be self-aware and to know that you're beautiful as you are. Your own, because if you allow people to tell you who you are, then you feed into that animal. But you need to be able to talk to people and show people that you know you're beautiful, you know you're worthy, you know, and you're not going to accept anything that's less. That was my takeaway from that topic. I don't know what you were trying to put across, or did I pick up exactly what you were talking about?
Yes, definitely. The book has so many angles, and I've touched so many angles, and whatever resonates with each person is what they're going to take away from it. So what resonated with you is exactly what I was trying to put across, and someone might also resonate with something else, and that's exactly what I was trying to put across. But in a nutshell, what I was trying to put across is that we attract what we give out to the world.
Oh yes, that's very true.
Reflect comes from mirroring yourself and others.
Yeah.
So if you are a good person, be good. Don't be good because people are bad. Be good because you are genuinely a good person, and don't stop being good because people are bad. Be good because you're good, and eventually God will honor your goodness.
Yeah.
You will not die without ever meeting people that will appreciate your goodness. That's not possible. God always makes sure that there's got to be somebody out there that will appreciate your goodness. So this part just specifically encourages people to continue being who they are, despite, the rough things that life has thrown at them. Never stop being you.
Yeah, that is also my take on, this social media thing, when people are going to give gifts or help out people and they take photos and things like that. I think that by doing that, you negate the actual deed that you're trying to do. I mean, if you're going to give something, give it without any gratification. If you're going to be good, don't be good because one day that person might come and help you. Be good because it's the right thing to do. Yeah.
And what I went through, we're now getting more and more raw as we are talking.
Yeah.
What I went through in my life, in my family, like I said, I'm the youngest.
Yeah.
I'm the first in the family to have a master's and a degree.
Wow.
And I'm the last born.
Congratulations.
And my brothers couldn't do it. Like I said, with shining comes opposition. And the greatest attack that I went through was my immediate family.
Wow.
They ambushed me. I was told to give up. I was told to quit, and I've been wanting to be a lawyer since I was 5. And especially my immediate older brother, he would look me in the eyes and say, when you see a lawyer one day in that, attire, don't think you are any less better, or you're not qualified to be in their shoes. Always remember that you're qualified, but for now we don't have the money. Just stop. That was just stop. It was always constant negativity. Just stop. And he would come home drunk. And as a lawyer in law school, I learned that when people are intoxicated, 9 times out of 10 they speak the truth. What is in the sometimes it can be marinated in exaggeration and lies, but something somewhere is the truth. And my brother walked into the house when he was drunk, and he looked me in the eyes and said, I'm not happy that you are advancing more than me. And I said, why are African families failing to see each other as doors? If I were in shoes, I would be so glad that my young sister is thriving, because you know how women love to take men do take care of the families, but women rarely forget the families. So if I was a man and I had a young sister thriving, I would support her, because I know my sister will always come back home and she'll always be grounded. She'll always, she's motherly. That's how God created us, wired us as women. But then I was fought. And my brothers were working at the time when I was doing my law school. I remember not having shoes to go to school. And I remember when I was in the boarding house, I failed to pay for 6 months. Believe you me, 4 years of my law school, strangers helped me pay for my school fees. Wow. And that's what I've written in the book, Sexually, to say, I never sold my body. And so that's why I wrote this book. I never sold my body. I've never sold my body to get hair, shoes, everything I have today. I got it genuinely.
That's amazing. That is amazing. Truly, truly, truly amazing and inspiring. Very, very inspiring. And your experiences in the relationship world, how have you managed to navigate? I know I'm going to put you on the spot on this, but we're here.
That's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for. So, yeah, I mean, if we can tell a couple of stories, or, I think something that would hit home to someone else out there, that, oh wow, someone else is going through this, I think, so if you can talk a little bit about your experiences.
Okay, so when you go to the book, there's a chapter called My Experience in the Love Battlefield. I don't know, chapter 1, page 22. My Experience in the Love Battlefield. In that chapter, I explain, like, there's so many guys that came my way, but these ones were really interesting. So that's how I had to, like, put them in the book.
I hope you never mentioned names.
No, I didn't. Being a lawyer, I know what defamation can do to you. Defamation of character.
Yeah.
Somebody can just say, hey, you just ruined my life. Put me on the splitter. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But I gave them catchy names like Mr. Lazy Pursuer, you know. Yeah, Mr. Lazy Pursuer. So I'm going to start with Mr. Lazy Pursuer. I drew a line, imaginary line in my head to say, unless a guy does ABCD, I will not commit.
Yeah.
So now, after I decided to be sexually armed, I decided no matter what, I'm not gonna sleep with anybody because I want to try this. Like, I want to weed out the wrong guys. And it was very effective. I did weed out the wrong guys. I could just see clearly, like, okay, this guy has, because the right guy will wait until he's gonna stick around until you just say, okay, let's do this marriage thing. But then Mr. Lazy Pursuer only wanted to call you when it's convenient for him. When you wanna talk, he's busy. But when it's like I was like an option. I was an alternative. If I could say, if things are not going on well, maybe I was his safety net, emotional safety net. I was his insurance for his, I was an insurance for his heart. You know, I was his backup plan. And being a backup plan is bad because if things are going well, there's like, that's your purpose is to, you know, in case of anything. But if there's no injuries or you know, lost in the relationship, like nobody's hurt, nobody's breaking up, you're not going to be happy. But unfortunately, I always say it's okay to not have me as a preference. It's okay, it's very okay. But what I'm not okay with is why drag me along if you know I'm not your preference.
That was Mr. Lazy Pursuer.
That was Mr. Lazy Pursuer. So he knew how to pursue a woman, but I was just not it for him, and that's okay. But he couldn't just say, you're not what I'm looking for. And I appreciate the guys who would just tell you, you're not what I'm looking for. I've had situations where somebody came as far as Lusaka just to see me, and I wasn't feeling him. And I told him up front, I was like, listen, you're a great guy, but what I don't like about you is A, B, C, D. And that's my preference. And he said, I appreciate you so much because I would get hurt, but it's not going to be forever. I'm going to heal, but I wouldn't be hurt more. I'll be more hurt if I invested in this relationship thinking it was going to be something tangible. So I spared him of the time that he would have wasted on me.
But it's not even just sparing him, it's sparing both of you because it's emotionally draining to be in a relationship. Sometimes people in a relationship just because they don't know how to get out of it.
True.
And it becomes emotionally draining.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Mr. Dusty Man. That's an interesting name.
My God. So a dusty man is the kind of man who is not ambitious. He thrives on women who are successful. He offers, and these type of men are very sexually skilled because that's all they have to offer. And once you sleep with this type of guys, you're not going to think straight because they just know how to get you. They just know how to get you. So these men normally date sugar mummies. They're like the Bentens and whatnot. So dusty men are potential, the guys who have the potential. Like for 40 years, you're just in potential. Like you're not executing your goals. And when you ask them, what do you want to be? Like, what's your definition of success? It's going to tell you something that's not practical. Something that's not like, okay, so that's what you want to achieve. So what are you doing now to achieve that? And then, you know, you're asking too many questions. I don't like that. I feel attacked. But then that's the problem with you lawyers. That's why you don't end up with men. And I've experienced it. Like, that's why lawyers are single, because you're just so investigative. And I'm like, dude, I need to know what I'm getting myself into. I need to know where your head is at. So I experienced Mr. Dusty Man because he knew I was a lawyer and I'm only 22, and he saw that, well, it's obvious, definitely, I believe God is taking me somewhere, and it's becoming noticeable now with the fruits I'm yielding slowly and the baby steps I'm taking. So this guy came on board in form of, I also have potential, and if we meet now and grow together, we will thrive, which is very okay. But along the way, I noticed that he was just so lazy. I don't want to be with a man that you have to push around to execute his goals. Like, I felt like I was the man in the relationship, and that's how dusty men are. They take up the feminine roles, and they let you take up the masculine roles of provision. I always say that. I believe in hypergamy, where the man should always lead. Regardless, yes, you can lead us. Look at the vice president, Telenal Mango. She's doing very well, but I believe the moment she walks into her home, she understands that she is not the leader of that home, and it takes so much wisdom for her husband to even allow her attain such a position. Second in command in the nation. That's a that's the type of man or men we need today. But then dusty men are insecure. Dusty men are very insecure when the women in their lives are thriving more than they are. They see it as a competition, and then such men feel threatened by their wives or girlfriends because their wives are doing well. They think the respect will be lost or whatever and whatnot. So this dusty guy was in my life, but I couldn't even have a decent conversation that challenged me. Like, when we talk, I go back saying, wow, I learned so much today. Like, what's cryptocurrency? You don't know. Like, things are changing. Like, wow. I just couldn't. But then he was ready to offer his body.
Wow.
To me. He was always like, the things I could do to you. But then I'm like, that's not what I want. That's gonna come later. But so, like, okay, assuming we get married and we've done that already, so what are we going to do with ourselves? What are we going to be talking about for the rest of our lives? We can't have a decent conversation. So that's how I had to cut things, and I had to walk away. So always remember, dusty men come in form of businessmen with so many big ideas. Like, if you can't show me a solid business plan or what you're doing now to achieve that goal, what's your definition of success, then that's a dusty man. So I weeded him out because I didn't sleep with him, and it was very easy to walk away. It's so easy to walk away when you don't sleep with someone. When you sleep with someone, you always be attached to them, and it's going to take you longer to heal. So that's the dusty man.
Oh, interesting.
And finally, the one you started with, Mr. Too Good to Be True.
Oh my God. Mr. Too Good to Be True. So you see how interesting this book is. I'd never mentioned any names.
This is definitely an interesting book.
And those who are going to read it, if the actual people are going to read, they'll even not, okay, this she's talking about me. She's definitely talking about me. So Mr. Too Good to Be True drove a BMW. He was like everything you would, like, he knew how to treat a lady, and you gotta be careful sometimes because the players know exactly what you want. They know what they can tell you what you want to hear just to get in between your legs, And Mr. Too Good to Be True came on. He was so consistent. He brought me flowers. He swept me off my feet. He was as handsome as his pocket. He had the money. And he took me to places extravagant places. Like, I had a good time. I will not lie. I had a really, really good time. But I felt like I had to pay him back for all the good things that he did. So how to distinguish Mr. Too Good to Be True from a genuine guy who's just practicing hypergamy, how to be masculine to his feminine woman? How to distinguish the two is... a genuine man will never ask you for sex in return, because at the end of the day, this is like white collar prostitution. Like, just take me to lunch and I'm going to let you do this. Buy me a dress and I'm like, that's prostitution. Modern day prostitution.
Yeah, very true.
And I'm not a prostitute. So I said, yo, like, am I supposed to pay you back for all the things you did? Like, when you are coming to pursue me, what was in your head? He's like, well, and those type of guys always say, let's see how this goes. Like, they don't want to give you a clear, definite plan, like roadmap, because this is what I want. I want to marry, I want to engage you in the next year or two. Like, they're not going, just let's see how this goes. And then his car was so tinted black, like, and then he just comes to see you at like past 6 p.m. Are we vampires? Like, why do you just want to see me at night? And then if it's during the day, he always suggested group dates, like bring your friends over, and I'm gonna bring my friends over. And then I was like, wait a minute. So if you happen to see your exes or whoever whatever is going on, you are going to say, they were my friends, like we're in a group date. Like, you don't want a one-on-one thing unless it's like vampire form, you know, where it's midnight, tinted windows and whatnot. And then if it's the one-on-one private interaction, he's gonna take you out of town where people don't know him. And then it became so suspicious, like, why are you hiding me? And when he asked me, let's go on Netflix and chill, you definitely know he's trying, like, let's go over, see a movie and then chill. You definitely know he wants to finally do what he wanted you to do after courting you and, you know, showing you the world and making you. But then I was actually writing the book when all this was happening, so I was just actually laughing in my head, in my heart, because I'm like, boy, if only you knew that you're actually an experiment right now. If only you knew. So at the backseat of his car, he says, let's go to my house and Netflix and chill. And I said, no. I almost said his name. If you want to play around, I'm not the girl for you. Ladies, do not be afraid to say no, even if it's going to cost you being single. Do not be afraid to say no. And that's how the guy stopped calling me. If I call him, he's busy. He'll tell me, let's go out on Saturday. I'll be ready, and I've been stood up and it sucks. Like, you're all dressed up, ready to go, and he just stood me up. So that's Mr. Too Good to Be True, and that's how he left me, because I didn't sleep with him. And up to today, he calls from time to time, girl, I miss you. I'm like, you definitely do, because you never got what you wanted. If you got what you wanted, you wouldn't call me, you would never remember me. So I always walk with my head up high, because I didn't give him what he wanted. So that's Mr. Too Good to Be True. Wow.
That's some brilliant advice.
Yeah.
That's some brilliant advice there coming in. I think before we wind up, maybe you can just tell us a little bit about your Christian journey, how it started, and have you always walked in faith, or is it something that came upon you? Where did it start for you?
I gave my life to Christ on the 24th of January 2011. I was just in my bedroom, and I've always grown up in a Christian home. Like, mom always taught us that God is your provider, he's a father, It's like, you know how growing up with a single mom, African home, like, you're asleep and she just puts oil on your face and praying for you. So, but then I wanted to know God for myself. I was 11 years old, and I said, who is this God? Like, I want to know him for myself. And then I prayed, but I was like, God, if you're real, I give my life to you. And I just felt this urge, and I started crying, and I said, God, forgive me. And that's how I joined the Bible believing church. I got baptized on the 5th of November 2012. I started speaking in tongues on 12th of June 2012. And the most memorable experience of my Christian walk was when I was in my 9th grade. My phone was off, and I needed to wake up to study at 1:30 a.m. in the morning. And I said, God, wake me up to study. And I said, I love you, God. And I slept. My bedroom door was locked with the keys. But the door at exactly 1:30, the door just opened on its own. And I knew that God is real. And that's how come I started trusting in God. But then, like I said, nobody teaches you. Like, you always hear, no sex before marriage, da 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 da. But things have changed. I had no one to talk to. That's when I now lost myself. When I was going into college, I lost myself. And the first person I lost myself to was my ex. He was my best friend in junior secondary. So I was like, he finally asked me out. He's like, I really love you. Let's date. And I said, yes, because you're my best friend. Who else if not you?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Little did I know that people change with time. The whole reason why I read this book is because I was trying to recover from, the hurts that I went through with the same guy. My brother hit me. One day. He raised his hand against me, the firstborn, in the kitchen, and I was bleeding. And I went to my mom. My mom was like, "No, I'm winning." And the reason why my brother hit me is because he found messages like my boyfriend saying, "I love you," and then my brother was like, "I'm going to go to jail for you." But then he didn't know how to talk to me like a lady, because he also didn't have a father figure to teach him that you don't raise your hand against a woman.
That's
and then
right.
I left home for 3 days. I went to my boyfriend's place because I felt so vulnerable and attacked, because I was like, the people that I'm like, I know God, I love God, but certain aspects like my dad not being there was still haunting me. And then I heard those words, the 3 words, I love you, for the first time from a guy that never meant it, because I thought he was my best friend. And then it happened. I gave myself away that day because I was hit at home, and then someone is showing you care, like showing you for the first time, like, wow, this is what being cared for means, because I never got it from home. Like when I'm home, my brother is hitting me, doing this, and then here's a guy that's offered to care for me. I was gone, and then he treated me however he wanted, and I couldn't leave because
You're giving yourself to him.
exactly, until I said, I'm gonna face this hurt, and I'm going to, just let myself heal. I broke up with the guy. He posted his new girl on social media. It broke me, but I started writing this book. So this book was therapeutic. I used to cry when typing this book, actually.
Wow. When we read through the book, I mean, the emotion is there.
Yes.
It's very apparent. It's very raw, and you do talk about, you've put yourself out there, and that is a very courageous thing to do. Okay, yeah. So as we wind up, Sarah, if you can just let the people out there know where they can find your book, how they can buy it, how they can access it, and also give us insight into your socials on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, how people can get a hold of you and know what you're doing.
My Twitter account is the Sarai. My Instagram handle is Sarah_Nampemba. My Facebook is Sarah Nampemba Elisha, but my Facebook business page is Sarai Music. You can get a copy of your my book is 2 weeks old, but we're planning to put it on Amazon. So if you follow me on those platforms, you'll be able to know when we finally put it on Amazon. But we are still taking pre-orders for those that can't wait till we put it on Amazon. And you can pre-order the book at 200 kwacha. When you go to my social media page, you'll find a link to my WhatsApp group for people that are ordering the book. And then you can order the book, and we're going to deliver it to you, hard copy or soft copy, depending on what your preference is.
Excellent. And your music, where can we access your music from?
Deezer, Spotify. Not on YouTube yet, because I want to go on YouTube after I do videos next year. That's what my goals. So for now, just stream my music on Deezer, get it on Spotify, or the next 2 weeks it's going to be on Vesesani. You can buy it. Yes. Just follow me, like I said, on my Facebook mostly. Yes.
Brilliant, great stuff. And anything else coming up which we'll be looking out for? Is there another book in the making?
Yes, there is. Chosen Yet Rejected.
Wow.
It's a book about
you've got away with titles. I can just imagine that book right now.
Chosen Yet Rejected is, like I said, thriving in the midst of opposition. That's what the book is about.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we'll end it there, and I'd just like to say thank you so much for coming through, having a talk with us. I wish you all the success with this book and all the best with your education, and all I can say is keep shining, because in shining you become a light for others to follow.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for this opportunity and listening to my story.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Yes, that has been another episode of the New Zambia podcast. Thank you so much for spending the time with us and sharing. I know your time is valuable, but I hope it was time well spent with us. Thank you. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and give us feedback on what you think of our podcast. We really appreciate of your comments to let us know. All the feedback is very, very helpful, either good or bad.